How is the reinsurance industry funded?
Ooh, good question. I guess two main ways. Let's say this. So you have companies which are established. I said like established.
And be established.
Exactly, which are established. Or established one day. We have companies which are established specifically for the purpose of underwriting reinsurance business, in which case they are effectively leveraging their own shareholders' funds, their own balance sheet as their capital. So, as a company, they're staking their own worth as a company and their own sort of piles and piles of claims reserves as their way of potentially paying claims should they need to be funded. To which extent you could say that that part of the industry is effectively funded by the shareholders of those companies. Whenever those companies have raised capital, or whether those companies have organically grown and grown, as many have over decades, in some cases centuries, to build up a bigger and bigger pile of capital that they can use. The other half of how the reinsurance industry is funded is where you have investors who could be external or kind of internal to the industry, really, who deliberately expose specific portions of their capital to the industry in the hope of getting a better return or a less correlated return from exposure to insurance risks than they would get elsewhere. So this tends to come in the forms of various insurance-linked securities, collateralized reinsurance as well, where effectively they find some kind of special purpose vehicle where they can lock up a bunch of their capital and say, here it is, here is our money in case a claim happens. If a claim doesn't happen, or not too many claims happen, then we get all of that money back from the special purpose vehicle, plus also a premium effectively, or some kind of payment for saying thank you very much for putting your your money there just in case for these last year or several years. So those are the kind of the two main sources. I don't know, Jared, if you'd add anything to that.
I think that covers off how reinsurers get funded. In the reinsurance industry, you have obviously the brokers, mostly more independent or PE kind of driving broker growth. Berkshire Hathaway could be a sweeping how's it funded.
Yeah.
Warren Buffett, I don't know. But there was actually, we missed it in our news roundup, but he just increased his exposure to Markel. So there's certain players who are huge investors across the space.
I mean, that's a really good example of the equity one, right? In some ways, because as well as playing in reinsurance in all sorts of different capital ways, quite literally that was an insurance company that got built up because of the size of a more general conglomerate's kind of balance sheet size, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we could do insurance because everyone knows we've got loads of money.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll pay claims with our loads of money. So
yeah,
you can see how this kind of happens.
Yeah. And then weirdly, there might be another one that, similar to how insurance companies can use reinsurance as capital, you could make a claim that reinsurance is also funded to some degree by retro. They're able to offload a bit of their exposure and use the capacity made available to them on a retro basis to write more. So you could also maybe make that extension, although maybe a bit less clearly, but you could see it in a similar way of allowing them to pay their bills and things like that.